This is unprecedented in what it is. You know, one thinks about the worst nightmare of a infectious disease person who's interested in global health and outbreaks. And here it is, it's happened, you know, your worst nightmare, the perfect storm. This is a really serious problem. It is truly historic. We haven't even begun to see the end of it yet.
More than 65,000 new coronavirus cases were reported Saturday as the U.S. approaches 500,000 new cases of COVID-19 each week. Those sobering numbers are presenting real hurdles for families concerned about getting back to school safely in the fall, for people waiting hours in long testing lines like these, and in many cases waiting days or weeks for results. The slow turnaround crippling a critical response tool, contact tracing. We'll talk to two governors for a bipartisan discussion on how they're battling the virus in the absence of clear federal leadership. But we begin in Florida, where there are more than 330,000 cases this morning and more than 40 hospitals with no available ICU beds. Representative Donna Shalala joins me now from Miami. And good morning, Congresswoman Shalala. Florida is the epicenter of this pandemic with record-breaking numbers. Just how bad is the situation in your district and in your state?
It's terrible. We have community spread, which means the virus is out of control. The lack of leadership in the White House and in our governor's office, they simply have not hit this with a hammer, which is what we needed to do, and starve the virus. They opened too soon, and they misunderstand what you need to do, or they understand it and they're not willing to do it. Next week, the Kaiser Family Foundation will report for the hotspot states that it's seniors again in nursing homes and young people now. In my district, it's low-income minorities, Hispanics and African Americans who were forced to go back to work for economic reasons and because their employers demanded they go back to work. And they live in multi-generational situations in small quarters, and the disease has simply spread in those areas. So it's the working poor, it's seniors, it's now young people, and it's totally out of control. We need to close down in Florida. We've asked the governor to do that, and we've even asked him to do the simplest thing, and that is to require masks for everyone. He has not done that. Luckily, our mayors in South Florida have done that, but that's just a small piece because this disease doesn't know what county or what city it's in.
Well, with all those alarming numbers, I want to ask about hospitals. On Friday, Florida announced over 11,500 new coronavirus cases and a growing number of hospitals with those dwindling ICU bed capacity. You've got members of the National Guard have been called to staff a field hospital at the Miami Beach Convention Center this week. You're a former HHS secretary. Should residents be concerned about being able to get care if they get sick?
Absolutely, they should be concerned about getting care. And apparently, the president wants to take the COVID-19 money out of the HEROES Act that we passed in May, which makes no sense at all. But the residents here are terrified. And I'm terrified for the first time in my career because there's a lack of leadership, and we simply have not gotten our arms around this. And talking about opening schools is ridiculous when you have community spread the way we do here. And the superintendent has luckily been very disciplined about what the standards will be for opening schools. But the real thing we need to do is we need to close down again. I said 4 months ago, if we don't do this right, we're going to have to close down again. That's our worst nightmare, and we're going to have to do that in Florida.
There are obviously concerns about the economy. Mayor Jimenez says that is a concern and why he doesn't want to close down completely. So what about the economy? What do you say to people whose businesses will suffer?
Their businesses are already suffering. Miami, my district in particular, really needs crowds. Last year, Miami Beach had a population of 90,000. They had 10 million visitors. Our economy will not come back until we meet this virus at its head and knock it down. I care deeply about the economy, but first I care about human life. And with our hospitals filled and the lack of appropriate testing and getting results, the lack of medicines, we've had to beg for medicines that would save lives. We simply cannot protect the economy if we don't protect the lives of the people in our community. And I'm particularly concerned because this disease is targeted towards seniors and towards the poorest in our community.
I want to say, if you aren't seeing the leadership you think is necessary, what can Congress do? What can you do in terms not only of health, but the economy?
Well, we're going to fight for the HEROES bill. The HEROES bill makes major investments in state and local government to keep our teachers, our police, our firefighters, and other municipal employees that are critical. It also invests in our healthcare system, in testing and contact tracing, and it has a major investment in education as well. We need the HEROES bill, and the Republicans seem unwilling to make major investments to stop this virus and to keep our economy in some kind of shape so that we can really make a recovery. That's unacceptable, and it's unacceptable for people to die unnecessarily because Congress is not prepared to step forward. We have already stepped forward. We passed that bill in May. Waiting for the Senate to act, waiting for the president to put a thumbs up or thumbs down is unconscionable. So we're going back this week with the expectation that there are enough members of Congress that care about their communities and care about all of our communities, and that they will help us pass the HEROES Act.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Congresswoman Shalala. Joining me now are two governors from two states where the crisis is escalating. Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson of Arkansas, who's issued a statewide mask order that goes into effect tomorrow, and Democratic Governor Polis of Colorado, who has been reversing his state's reopening, saying Colorado right now is on a knife's edge. I want to start with you, Governor Hutchinson. Arkansas set a new record for hospitalizations this week, as well as showing an increase in cases. If you just take a look at this graph, it is pretty clear you have a very serious problem. Several weeks ago, you said that you had not seen a correlation between the increase and lifting restrictions, but rather that the new cases were coming out of some of the essential industries that are open, like meat processing plants. Is that how you still see it?
I do, but obviously because we did see an increase in cases in the community not tied to where we have lifted restrictions, we did take the further step of instituting a statewide mask mandate. Not something I wanted to do, but it's something everybody can do to relieve the pressure on our hospitals, to give us a hope to bring down those cases. And so we've taken the steps that are necessary. If we have to put in additional restrictions, we will, but there is, as you've pointed out, an economic impact. This last week, we reported, it was reported that we have an 8% unemployment rate. It's declined a couple percentage points, which means people are going back to work. I think that is good because that's about health, that's about livelihoods as well. And so it's a balance that we're trying to achieve with the first emphasis upon saving lives. That's why we institute the mask mandate. We will do more if needed, but we want to be able to see the data if we're going to have to put in additional restrictions.
And Governor Polis, Colorado is starting to see an uptick in cases and hospitalizations. You can see the graph there as well. You went from saying you didn't believe a mask mandate was enforceable to issuing a statewide mandate in the span of 1 week. Even as recently as this past Tuesday, you said you were conflicted on the mandate. What changed between then and Thursday when you put out that executive order?
Well, look, I mean, there's no governor that ran for office or gets up every morning saying, I want people to wear masks, and that's why, Asa had concerns about it. So did I. We don't want to tell people what to wear or what to do in their lives. This is a free country. That's what we treasure here. What we found in our state is we had about 60% of our state that had a municipal or county mask mandate, and we simply found that they work. Two things. The areas that had mask requirements in our state had 15 to 20% more mask usage and lower spread of the virus. So looking at that data, with the desire to keep the economy open, to maximize the ability to return to school in as safe a way as possible for teachers and for students, the mask mandate was really an easy decision after I saw that data.
And Governor Hutchinson, as you said, you also went from encouraging mask wearing to making it mandatory. I know you have avoided being overly critical of the president, but listen to what he said to Chris Wallace when he was asked whether he would consider a national mandate on mask wearing.
No, I want people to have a certain freedom, and I don't believe in that, no. And I don't agree with the statement that if everybody wear a mask, everything disappears. All of a sudden, everybody's got to wear a mask. And as you know, masks cause problems, too. With that being said, I'm a believer in masks. I think masks are good.
Governor, how is that helpful to a governor like you who wants people to wear masks?
Well, I don't support a national mask mandate. I think the states are addressing this. We took the steps that we needed to in Arkansas. Jared's taken the steps that he needs to do in Colorado. It is important that they set the national standard, an example. The president said he wears a mask. That's important. Now, let me just say,
but he says he wears them in certain
Congress.
places. He's only worn a mask to, as far as we know, in public, to Walter Reed Hospital, where he essentially had to wear a mask. He's sending out very mixed messages.
We need to wear a mask. That example needs to be set by our national leadership. But let me go ahead and make the point that Congress needs to work together. What I didn't hear before was that the Democratic Congress wants to work with the Republican Senate to come up with a compromise position that will help the states in terms of testing and education, and they can do that if they work together. And that's what we do as governors. There is a partnership there. There's a lot of help coming from the federal government, and so it's not a time to be critical. It's a time to work together.
And I just want to ask you this. It doesn't really seem to be a battle the president is winning with masks. In the most recent ABC News Washington Post poll, 66% of Republicans say they wear a face mask around other people, but that is far fewer than the Democrats. So what does that tell you about how partisan this issue has become?
Well, we actually did some polling, and it was supported by both Republicans and Democrats wearing masks. There is a little bit of a marginal difference there. It shouldn't be about politics. I'm a Republican governor. Democrat governors we've put in mask mandates based upon the circumstances of our state. It's not popular. It's not something we want to do. It's not the first lever we pull, but it is one that when the data says it's necessary, we do it. And I think this is the right approach that we have to take. No one wants to beat this virus more than the people of Arkansas. And so we're asking them this is one thing they can do to help us to have school, to help us to keep our economy moving. And we're asking them to do it, and we're putting out the mandate to accomplish that.
Governor Polis, do you think it has been too politicized with the masks?
Well, when we announced our mask requirement in Colorado, I was joined by a Republican mayor from one of our biggest cities. I think what's important for people is to know is that this is not ideological, it's not partisan, it's science-based. Masks are a ticket to more freedom. It makes it less likely that businesses will be shuttered. It makes it less likely that people will die. It makes it more likely school will return. If we care about those things, and I know we all do, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Greens, Libertarians, doesn't matter. If we care about those things, you're going to take that as a matter of personal responsibility to wear a mask, protect yourself, protect others, protect our economy.
And Governor, you said neighboring states like Utah, Arizona, are showing Colorado what will happen next if you don't regain your footing. What are you doing outside of that mask mandate? What comes next for you?
Yeah. Yeah, and so we have a lot of visitors in Colorado from many other states because we have, beautiful mountains, world-class recreation. So part of the mask requirement is to have that clarity of message. Colorado's a mask-wearing state. If you're coming here from a state where that's not the norm, not the custom, we want you to wear masks here to keep others safe, keep yourself safe. It's also clear that wearing masks are not enough, and I want everybody to know that. Masks are not a way that we can live like we lived last January or last year. They're an important part of it, but we also need to take social distancing very seriously. That means no large mixed groups, and we also have to be 6 feet from others whenever possible. These things combined will allow Colorado and allow America to beat this thing and get back to normal sooner rather than later.
We really appreciate you joining us this morning, Governor Polis and Governor Hutchinson, especially there in that bipartisan approach together.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.